April 28th, another Friday safety focus of the week. This week's code of conduct is to maintain cleanliness and condition of our vehicles and equipment. Any further discussion on this code item this week, Ben?
Take care of it like it was your own. Because it kind of is.
Yeah.
If we've got to replace and repair and fix everything, then there's less money at the end of the year when we're thinking about giving increases, things like that. But also it's our image, and there's a lot of pride when we see one of our really good looking, I think Ken's got a picture of one of our new trucks all loaded up, and when that goes by, and it looks good, I think it improves our image in the public when we have things that look neat and clean, look like a professional company.
Right.
So there's tons of benefits.
No downside, right?
There's probably no downside.
No. So 313 days without a recordable injury. We are.
You gotta let them guys get.
Oh, Daryl, you're muted. Very impressive record. However, wanted to highlight we had 4 first aid injuries in the last 25 days. So we are definitely playing with fire. 2 back related injuries and 2 eye. So we're threading the needle. We do have a lot of exposure, but we do need to make sure we're not taking unnecessary risks and we're really thinking about what we're doing before we do it. That seems kind of the underlying message that we've had in the month of April, but it is, we're getting back in the swing of things. So taking care of ourselves and looking out for one another and making sure that if there's any questions on safety, they're being addressed. Again, health and safety is here for your guidance and an extra set of hands. If you need us, please reach out and we're here to help. So right now it's just 1 day from our last first aid injury. So let's really focus on that today as we get going after the safety meeting.
I've noticed myself a few startup injuries on new activities, and you got to stretch. You got to be kind of ready for the push when it comes, because your body doesn't necessarily react like it had in the past when you get older.
That is true. So I wanted to highlight underground damage prevention, something. There's been a lot of changes in the system, really just regarding one utility locating, but I wanted to highlight it as we're really getting going. We've also had an uptick on underground utility close encounters and a couple utility incident strikes, one not our fault, one our fault. So today just going to highlight the process, kind of talk about 811 quick, the importance of the DigSafe ticket, the color cooling system, just to highlight that and re-educate, retrain. And then regarding maintaining our marks and then the 18-inch tolerance zone. This is all going to be about prevention, how to re-prevent it. We got a future topic about what happens after we hit and documentation. The safety committee has an emphasis of this utility strike prevention as well. So we're going to highlight that down the road. So the 811, it is a law. The biggest thing is we want to know what's in the ground before we start digging. So the law is 48 hours right now. There's legislation out there to potentially move that to 72 in the upcoming years. But for right now, the current system is 48 hours. So we need to make sure that we're calling 48 hours before we want to get out there and dig. We want to get out there and pre-mark. And this is something that I've been hearing from the utility owners themselves. ECI is not the best at pre-marking our job sites. So we really want to make sure we're providing crystal clear pre-marks so they can really give us all the information we need of the known utilities. There's been a lot of times where they've gone out and had to call back in about where actually are you digging? I can't find your flags. I can't find your markings. So let's try to make it crystal clear from this point moving forward that we're really going out there and pre-marking. Again, that should be white stakes, flags, paint, whatever, labeled ECI with some measurement, 500 feet, with an arrow, 1,000 feet with an arrow. So the ticket that they read from our description and what they're seeing out there on site is accurate. So then they can really highlight our area with all the CALM, Vermont Gas, GMP, power lines. Make sure we're using our company ID when we're calling these things in 13405. If you have your own, let's get off that and let's use our own, because if someone calls looking for a dig ticket, or if something lapsed and they contact health and safety and we're not using our company ID number, we can't find the record. We lose it. We lose time. We have to recall in a whole ticket. So making sure that everybody has that ID number for engineers construction, it's 13405. Again, make sure that we're staking the whole entire property, making it crystal clear. If you're going to use one single point, give a radius. You know, if it's just a sinkhole for a catch basin or something like that. Get a new ticket if you need to work outside your pre-marked area. So if we don't do a good job pre-marking and then we have to change our bore plan, or the utility that we're trying to fix is outside our pre-marks, we need to call a dig safe ticket. We can't just add to an existing ticket. We've been kind of pushing that envelope a little bit, and I wanted to make sure that everybody has crystal clear guidelines. So that's why pre-mark is as large as you need, to making sure that we have the information we need to get our work done. The importance of the dig safe ticket, again, is just the awareness. There's a online, and it's kind of hard to see, but like with this ticket here that we called in for Williston, it has AT&T, Centerline, Comcast, Consolidated, First Light, Green Mountain Power, VEC. You know, this is going to be a site that's going to be lit up with a lot of paint. So this is great information to provide to the field. So when the crew leaders and the frontline workers get on a job site, they know that they should be seeing a lot of utilities. If they're not, that information needs to get back to kind of health and safety, so that we can start making phone calls to figure out who needs to respond. And the online version is really nice because it gives phone numbers right here. We can make these phone calls. We can get service provided to these job sites, so we don't have any hold up. But it's very important to know now that USIC is only marking First Light, and that's probably going to change in the next 4 months or so. There's negotiations going on between First Light and Centerline. So Centerline now is taking pretty much everybody other than Vermont Gas. So please provide feedback with Centerline, because we've worked really hard in the background making this switch, getting a new utility provider that will go out and really care about our underground infrastructure, and also hopefully make our lives safer and easier regarding damaged utilities. So it's very important that this information gets back and forth from the guys doing the work in the office about what known utilities are in the area, so we know for sure what we have before we got going in. So just highlighting quickly the universal color coding system. Again, red is electric, gas, oil and steam, or for the most part, it's just gas for us here in Vermont, is yellow. All of our telephone, fiber optic, cable TV, so your Comcast, CCI, which is Consolidated, Sprint, it is orange. Water is marked out by, you'll be CWD or Williston Water. That would be blue. Our sewer is green. And then our temporary surveying marks for all of us, we should be utilizing, that's the universal, is pink. And then white, again, is just for our pre-marks. So make sure you have plenty of paint in your job trailers, in your trucks. We're keeping those marks refreshed, and making sure that we have the proper surveying marks. And we're not using orange for a surveying mark, because that could get really confusing. So let's really establish that universal color coding system for putting down any markings on site. I wanted to kind of highlight, because I'm working through the AGC with the utility owners to try to make sure that they're providing us a little bit more information. So I know it's kind of small and hard to see, but what we have here is your typical kind of mark out, and this is like a duck bank, you know, which is more than one utility. And you kind of see it's 4x4 with 4 inches. So that's saying that there's 4 conduits, 4 inches. So the common ground of underground utilities says that these locating companies should or shall provide this for the excavating companies out there. So I'm trying to get that process going. So hopefully we start seeing a little bit more information, not just red paint down, but hopefully they'll identify, because that will also help with our underground utilities that are banded. So when we go down and find something, we don't know if it's alive or dead, but if they notify it that there's 4-inch conduits, or if there's a 2-inch conduit and we find a 1-inch conduit, that 1-inch conduit might be abandoned, and we need to find that 2-inch conduit. So that's kind of the vision of this, to try to get us more information so we can prevent some of those abandoned utility issues that we have. And then the identifiers as well, Telcom, Comcast, First Light, they do a pretty good job with telling us all the different out there, but it'd be great if they also would tell us the size of the utility that we're looking for. So hopefully we'll start seeing that. It's something that we're working hard through the AGC to get that happening. And then lastly, it's the law for us to maintain our marks, something that we sometimes lapse on a little bit. So let's making sure that if we're going to remove any marks, remove the pavement, let's make sure we have a plan. If it's creating offsets with grade stakes, taking photos, but also calling the surveyors to GPS to come back to establish those marks. Once we remove a mark and we can't maintain it, and then we're flying blind, we're putting ourselves at risk for a utility strike. So let's really make sure that we have a plan if we're removing marks. Easiest thing to do, grab a tape, create some offsets, put it in your field book, so we can always go back and refresh those marks pretty much as the project progresses, especially in some of these long latitudinal projects, waterline projects, a lot of different crossings out there. So let's just make sure that we have a plan, and that plan is established.
Hey, Matt, I got a question. So at one point, are we not required by law to maintain the marks? What if we're done with we do an excavation, there's the marks, we maintain them, and we're done, and we're backfilling, but we're still on the project? Do we have to keep maintaining those marks beyond the point when
No.
we're gonna be a problem? So
No,
the law, what does the law say about maintaining the marks?
For excavation, when we're digging down to do our work, soon as we're bringing our work back up to finish grade and doing all of our hardscape, we don't need to maintain them, because we're not going back. But if we're going back, if we're doing a bunch of dig downs everywhere, we need to maintain those marks.
Okay.
It's our fault if we damage an underground utility, we remove the mark, and then we say that it wasn't marked, but
So
it was marked and we didn't maintain it.
So
that's where we get in trouble.
Really comes into effect more if we hit something after we've removed the mark, probably.
Exactly. That's what I'd say.
Thank you.
Hey, Matt, it's Mark Peliquin.
Hey, Mark.
I also encourage people to absolutely take photos of their marks as well. We had a job down in Burlington last year or 2 years ago where DigSafe marked it all out, didn't mark some of the utilities, and then we found one the hard way, and they instantly blamed us, but they didn't mark it, and we had photos. So definitely make sure you document what they do.
That's a good idea. Yeah. Well
said, Mark. How the law is kind of written, it's our fault. Any damaged utility is our fault. We got to prove our innocence.
Yeah.
And we're getting pretty good at it because of the current climate, but hopefully it's getting better. And that's what we've been working hard to get a better utility company in here and really providing us with good info before we do our dig downs. So that last thing is just really making sure that we're prioritizing our 18-inch tolerance zone. That's, again, we're going to hand dig, vac excavation, whatever it may be, to go down, find that known utility. We're not going to mechanically, with that excavator bucket, breach that 18-inch tolerance zone until we visually see it. If we're doing a pilot hole by it, drilling by it, or with an excavator, doing a dig down, we got to go down with a hand or vac excavation with hand shovels, find that known utility, and then, hopefully stake it, put a grade stake in there with a depth so we can go back when we need to cross it later on. So it's a great practice is to always pothole ahead of us. Pothole. Put in your field book, your depths down the road. And if you're going to be doing a lot of potholing, call us. We have underground utilities that will also help provide the depth so we can really hone that in and really streamline that process. So we're not searching, oh, where's this utility? Because we have been seeing also lately that the marks are a little bit off left or right. We don't think they're that deep, but they actually end up being 4.5, 5 feet deep on some of these comm lines. So call us and we can really provide you with a lot of information right in real time to help be a time saver and also less back-breaking work doing all that hand digging. So
It's good
That's,
exercise. That
yeah.
was my first job at ECI. The first day, actually the first week, they gave me a hand shovel and I worked ahead of the crew locating every single utility crossing that we had by hand. That was my first mission that Colby gave me, and he told me we find everything before we get there, and that was in 1988. So it was true back then, and it's still true. I think we need to make sure that we use the hand shovels and the tools close to the utilities and actually find them, and then assess that it makes sense. You know, he told me also, you're looking for a 4-inch line. If you find a 1-inch line, you didn't find it. It was simple stuff like that in the old days, but it was the same thing.
Yep.
So
That's all I have on
We're
this.
gonna keep buying hand shovels. We're gonna keep using them.
Yep.
So we're not eliminating the hand shovels.
No, it's the law.
Okay, we all set?
Yeah, that's all I have. Any questions, please contact me after the meeting and we can talk about this further. If there's any other best practice anyone wants to share, feel free to share it.
Okay, thanks, Matt. I think a lot of it is just having awareness every moment you put the shovel in the ground.
Yep.
Okay, I'll take over here. Okay, can you see the screen?
We got it.
Yep.
All right. This little box out of the way. All right, announcements. Hey, we have a new ECI policy. And maybe Ben Dow, are you a good person to explain it?
Sure. So in an effort to get our employees more involved in helping get good people on board at ECI, we developed a pilot program to reward people that bring new employees on at ECI. So the purpose of the program, I've got it actually right here, is to encourage our current employees to recruit future employees. ECI employees should focus on recruiting within our industry people that are not actually past employees. We're looking to get some new people in the door here. So it's not necessarily meant for the returning employees of recruiting them back, but I guess we got a little bit of leeway there. The recruit should be people who would seem to be a good fit with our culture. That's kind of our purpose of this program. And what we want to do is identify when we hire someone. All the hiring managers know about this program. Try to identify if someone was actually recruited and if there was a reasonable effort to get someone here. It's pretty easy. I've got like 4 of them right here already, and it's all about someone that has been talking to an employee for several years, trying to encourage them to come here is one of them. Let's see, what's another one? Someone that convinced another person to come here because he liked it and he thought it was a good culture. And then there was another one where someone was actually related and convinced one of their relatives to come here. So the way it works is after we hire someone, we identify the fact that someone was referred. We have a form, an approval form that we can fill out. There's actually a link to it there, Ken. And there is a $250 bonus paid to the recruiting employee after the new candidate serves for 4 weeks. So 4 weeks, $250. And then after 6 months of full-time employment here at ECI, the ECI employee that recruited will receive another $750. So you can actually
Wow.
recruit someone here. And if they stay for 6 months, that means that's a pretty good chance that they're the right stuff. That's $1,000. What we've also said is that if you want to recruit, you can do that up to 5 times per year. We put a cap on it at $5,000. So potentially, if you can get 5 people on board and they're good employees, and you can get them to be here for 6 months, that's a $5,000 bonus, which is
That's
I
pretty
think
darn
that's
good. Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Ken, you're not included in the program.
Ah,
And most of what we don't want to do is have a conflict of interest with the hiring managers and the upper level management is generally not included in this. Although I have a little bit of leeway because one of my functions in all this is to determine that there was a reasonable recruiting effort, and that this is try to maintain that this is a sensible thing to do and that it makes sense. We had one employee who learned about this and he said, well, I'm just going to hang outside the door and have them put my name on their application. And one of the things we do is just try to verify that it was a little bit more than that. It doesn't have to be a lot more though. It's all about promoting our culture, promoting and the pride that you have in what we have going here to try to get other people on board that have similar aspirations and goals and would be a good fit. So $1,000 per each time you can recruit someone who stays here for at least 6 months. And I'll say, if it doesn't work out, we don't hold anything against the recruiting employee. I mean, sometimes things don't work out for different reasons. What we don't want to do is have anyone, any of this reflect negatively on someone who's trying to recruit and improve our culture. So
good.
Ken, you have links so that people
Yep.
can actually click and you can read the policy. It's a 1-pager, and then everyone can actually download the form and fill it out and talk to the recruiting. There's usually a hiring manager. It's usually one of the division leads that ultimately gets people on board here. So any of you that talk to your managers and get them involved in the hiring process and make sure they get this form filled out so you can benefit from it. It's meant to be a positive thing. One of the employees
Sure.
said to someone the other day, they said, well, I'm going to start recruiting now because we're getting paid for it. That was just a little bit to give them the inspiration to do that. So that's cool.
Yep. Sounds good. Also, I put the EEO policy on here again, just as a reminder. Also, I should have I'd forgotten I was going to do it, put the link to last week's safety meeting, which we kind of rolled out the latest, the April 23, which really isn't much different probably, but we had a whole presentation by the compliance. Well, it's not really a compliance officer, but the EEO officer. And let me see, who was that EEO officer? Oh, it was Ben Dow. We want to reinforce that too.
I tried to pin it on McKinney, but he spoke up real quick.
Oh,
But
yeah.
and especially on the state projects, they will be, the civil rights group of VTrans will be out, and that's one of the questions that they're going to ask. That's a real easy one to answer. Do you have an EEO policy? Yes. And who's your EEO officer? Mr. Dow. Ben Dow is the officer. If you can get those 2 questions right, they're probably going to leave you alone. If you don't, there's all kinds of issues that come up where we have to retrain, and then we have to stop everybody and have a special meeting, and it's all about compliance, and it ties to the funding. of the projects that we do that require that this is being done. So it's just verification.
Okay. So if you didn't see last week's safety meeting of the week, then you can go back to the YouTube channel and Matt can get you that information if you need to as well. Okay, we got new employees. We got an Austin Noel, a Rich Scott, and Jaden Tilton. And one other guy, I don't have his picture for this week, but I'll follow up next week. Well, and welcome all the new people, and certainly if you see them around, make them feel welcome and kind of get them to be a part of ECI in a very positive way. I have the ECI primary care wellness program link here, so we'll want to get involved in that if you're not already involved. And then for the project of the week, we are highlighting the kickoff to the 2023 paving season, which this week marks the kickoff. And also, I didn't realize it until I was putting this together last night that we are now in our 50th year of paving, believe it or not. AC Paving, which was part of ECI, and now everything's rolled into ECI, but AC Paving was started in 1973. Our paving projects this week include the Odell Apartments, first half of Bridge Deck in Huntington for Parent Construction and Lone Pine Campground, along with some other small projects. And we were also contracted with Pike Industries for cold plain milling in Milton and some milling for our own project for a culvert project on Route 207. The first picture I put out here shows the new low bed tractor, and it's hooked up to one of the older pavers. We do have a newer paver, which shows up in this photo, I'd say. Yep, here it comes. So we get the new paver. Jim McNall, are you out there? Or Daryl, you want to talk about the new paver?
Sure, it's a Weiler P385, nice heavy duty, kind of a mid-sized paver. That's probably the first dump going into it up at Lone Pine Campground, base paving. I think the guy looking down in might be the sales guy, Josh. He spent a couple of hours up here on the first day to kind of go over all the bells and whistles and make sure everything was working fine. But so far so good. Guys like it.
Yeah, and it's a different type of paver than our previous ones, right?
Correct. We've had Maldens for I don't know, last 8, 10 years, 12 years. So this is a cap product, Weiler. And there's getting to be more and more of these out there. People are happy with them.
It's multi-adjustment screed shapes and profiles, that sort of thing too.
Yep. 8 to 16 foot, pretty heavy screed, and I forget the horsepower on the tractor. Must be up like 100 or something. I forget. That's a nice machine.
Right, electrically heated screeds.
Yep.
Good. Okay, good. Well, that's great. And there's a picture from the back end.
Yep.
Matt. So that guy on the phone, he's the sales guy.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Josh.
The guy without the vest.
Right.
It's always awesome running when you get new equipment, isn't it? It's fun.
Yeah.
Mm.
And we had some compaction on that first piece there. Good. So this is up in Milton, Jim?
Yeah, it's got to be up in Milton.
Yep.
Miscellaneous streets. Trying to think why that building here. I'm not exactly sure. Bunch of the streets
That's
right
across
behind
from
McDonald's. Is
That's
it?
the
Oh,
Poland
on the opposite.
Pulling
That's
lumber
route,
place.
yeah, that's the main road out there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's the opposite side of the road. That's Route 7. Yep.
Okay.
Haydenberry.
Yep.
McDonald's is right there on the left-hand side. You can't
Right,
see.
okay, Haydenberry, yep.
Yeah, there you go. McDonald's will be on the right-hand side, I think.
Oh, wow.
Heads down in there.
That our skid steer too?
Oh, yeah.
So we were doing.
We had some full width. One street was full width, and then a whole bunch of these 25 and 50 foot butt joints or tapers, so they can match into on the overlays, not just little trimmer joints. They spec out these 25 and 50-foot tapers, so they're nice smooth transitions.
So we were doing everything, and they trucking must be, or?
They trucked, exactly.
They trucked, we did everything else.
We did all the milling, trimming,
Yep.
and with one truck, and then they subsidized us with additional trucks as
I see.
needed, pretty much.
Yep. Yep. Of course, a big part of milling is cleaning it up, right?
For sure.
Really looks like they need it. They need the pavement.
Yeah, look at the
Yeah, it does look
existing,
like
yeah. Yeah, so you can see like probably a 50-foot butt joint behind them transition
Right.
out onto Route 7. So you got a nice smooth.
Yep.
Huh.
These were a little fuzzier, so I kept them on the small
I forget
side.
who took them up at Lone Pine. That's the little
Yep.
store and check-in building,
Yep.
doing some fine grading prep, getting ready for that base paving that you just showed earlier. And wrap up
Right.
that job for the most part. Little topsoil seed and mulch. The
So,
perimeter.
The paving guys, all crew always gets credit for such a nice looking job after it's
It's
done,
the
but
prep
it has a
guy.
lot to do with the guys doing the prep, doesn't it?
That is for sure. Everybody like
Wow,
Ben and
Fix a lot of the other stuff.
And it's a little hazy for some reason, but we're putting
yeah,
in
that new equipment,
asphalt
Ken,
curb.
and how old is that roller? The back picture, that the old we call it the I forget what nickname for it.
The duo
buck
pack.
roller, the duo pack. Ben, that had to be here when you got here.
Yeah, I think we have a picture of Ben on that. I'll dig it up next time.
Still one of the better roller. It pounds. Yeah.
Right. It's funny because some of these just self-destruct, but
Right.
this one's held together. So, yep. So the asphalt curbing,
Yeah, got some curbing going in.
and this is the tilt bucket.
Yes, yes. They
Oh,
use
wow.
a whole bunch of, yes, the dump tilt bucket works great for curbing. If you
Right.
had a little bit of shoulder work to do, you could use it for that. Yep,
Probably makes a nice wheelbarrow too.
that's exactly, no wheeling involved.
Right.
It'll work great for backing up that curb when somebody decides to go over and do it.
Right here,
Ooh,
you can fill a
yeah.
bucket with topsoil or whatever. Yeah, if it's hopefully
Right.
decent and dry and, yep.
Good. Okay. And then this was up on 207.
Correct.
What town is this actually?
It's actually
in
Swanton,
or-
right, Mark? It's
Okay.
just over the line. The Swanton line, when you get off exit, what is that?
Okay.
The second St. Albans is only like about a mile up, 2 miles. You're in Swanton,
Yeah.
heading towards Highgate.
It's called Swanton Street Culvert, and I was like, well, does that mean that it's not Swanton or? So that's coming up this weekend, this job where,
Yeah.
Closing it right now, probably, or getting
Probably
ready
right
to
now, yep.
Closing 207, which is kind of a
Right.
major
right,
throughway.
definitely.
That's
Hopefully
pretty
everyone
cool.
already knows. Probably a lot of our guys coming in on 207 were cursing at our job and
Could
turning
be.
around and having to go back around 78 or something.
They were late. They're right now.
Okay, so the photo archives, I have this
Ah!
picture.
The 4200.
I would assume that's Donnie Jakes in there.
Wow.
That's either DJ or Bobby Grant.
Could have been Bobby. Okay, it's hard to tell.
Oh,
It's-
wow. Yeah. We made that into a tandem dump truck after that, and we still ran it for many years. I'll tell you a little trivia. Tom Lawyer, I know he's in the background listening, but the duo pack roller that we were talking about,
Yeah.
we have to give credit to Tom Lawyer for that, because when he worked at Woods, he's the salesman that sold us that awesome roller that we're still running. So I don't know what year that was, but Tom Lawyer is takes credit for selling us that awesome roller.
Hmm.
So I don't know if you knew that, Ken. Tom
No, I
just
didn't
texted.
know that.
Tom texted me. He sold it to us.
Did he?
So good job. That's probably in the 80s,
I was gonna say.
early 90s. Yeah.
30.
This
something.
could have been, this was maybe not even the early 80s. I'm not sure. I can't tell. And certainly that truck been around, that style's been around since the 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, yep. Well, that kind of brings me back to that 50 years ago time anyway, the dual pack and this truck when we started paving in 1973. Before I was into it, I started, I can't remember if I was in high school or what, whether it was a summer or after I got out of high school, I was on the paving crew anyway. So I was the wheelbarrow operator.
Sure.
A lot of our trucks and equipment just had we didn't have the logo. When I came here, we had it said Engineers Construction on all of our stuff, kind of just like that.
Yep.
It was kind of pre-logo. It's kind of cool. It's vintage.
Yeah,
That's a vintage picture.
Didn't have fancy logo, vendors and systems available back then. So,
Yeah.
all right, well, that's what I got. We'll turn it back over to Matt. Have a safe day out there.
Thank you. Thanks everybody for jumping in, being part of today. Safety folks, let's be safe today. And if you watch this meeting in a group setting, please send me over a text message so I can capture attendance. Let's have a safe day.
Yeah.
See ya.